Good evening, my name is Dova, and welcome to Walking and Talking in Video Games. Tonight we'll be walking through Ark Survival Evolved while I gently talk you to sleep, discussing whatever my ADHD brain decides it wants to think about. I'm so glad you're here, and I want you to know that you are safe here. Now, let's get to walking. Tonight I want to start by talking about this dog that I raised in high school. Now bear with me, this wasn't just any dog. One of my friends had told me about this program where, so there's a company called Guide Dogs for the Blind, which, they're kind of self-explanatory based on the title, but they provide free dogs to people who are visually impaired who need a seeing eye dog. Now, because it's free, instead of the normal $30,000 for a service dog, there is a long wait list, as you can imagine, and they're always looking for more volunteers. And one of the positions that you can volunteer for is to be a puppy raiser. So basically, they send you a puppy they've got specific breeder dogs that are chosen for their temperament and health and things like that. And so they send you one of their puppies, and you get to raise the puppy for the first, I think it was like a year and a half of its life. Well, they send it to you when it's 8 weeks old, and my puppy, Nyland, was born in April. Sorry. He was born on April 20th. If you know, you know. And I brought him back in August, so a year and 2 months I had him. So Nyland was a black lab, and this was the coolest freaking program ever. So a friend of mine had found out about it, and she introduced me to it. Basically, you get to take the dog everywhere with you because it's a service dog. It has to learn. Basically, you teach it. Sorry, I keep saying the word basically, but you teach it basic obedience and socialization, and so you get to take it everywhere as a service dog needs to learn to do. And you teach it how to be a good dog. And then, of course, the actual advanced tasks, like the disability related tasks, are taught by the people who work for Guide Dogs for the Blind. So we were in high school. This happened my senior year of high school, and it was the best thing ever because I got to have a dog in school, and our principal was super accommodating to me. He gave me 5 extra minutes between classes because he knew, for one thing, our school did not have stairs, but it was very big. So to several of my classes, I was in FFA, like the agriculture class/club, and band, and unfortunately those two things were on opposite ends of the school from each other. So we had 7 minutes between classes. It took me the full 7 minutes speed walking to make it from band to FFA. So because, the dog needs potty breaks and things like that, and dogs just, I can't force him to speed walk with me necessarily. Our principal gave me 5 extra minutes to walk him from class to class. So I appreciated that right off the bat. And the first day of school, the library was where I kept his cage and stuff. He was still a puppy then. He was so freaking cute. But I don't remember how exactly this happened, but the counselors had volunteered to have the counselor's office be my, I want to say headquarters, but I don't know if my home base kind of, where I kept his cage and they would keep an eye on him. And that would be I would take him to most classes, but he still had breaks throughout the day. He was a puppy, and there were some classes that it was better that I didn't take him to, like science classes. If we had a lab, better to keep him away from the chemicals and things like that. And also band. The leader of our puppy raising group did not want me to take him to band because another girl who had raised a puppy the year before me she was in band too, and she had taken her dog to band, and apparently it freaked him out and he had diarrhea. Sorry. Sorry for the poop talk, but he did not handle it well. So she was worried that Nyland would not handle it well either. But honestly, he did a great job. Nyland was amazing, is amazing. And so I didn't tell her the times that I did take him to band, but I totally did sometimes. I also didn't tell her about the times when I sat him up in the chairs and stuff to take pictures, or like put him in my car seat and buckled him in and then took a picture. I didn't like let him ride in the car like that, but for the sake of a picture, heck yeah. So that whole year, everyone loved Nyland, obviously. I even have some funny stories where there was this one time I was walking down the hallway and everything was normal, right? And this kid, he's walking towards us. He's kind of close, but you know, whatever. Like sometimes people just don't realize they don't have a lot of sense of personal space. But I'm going to preface this by saying no one was allowed to touch him without express permission because he was in working mode. You're not supposed to pet a service dog that's working. Vest off with their owner's permission, whatever, that's fine. But when they're working, no, like completely off limits. So this kid, right as he gets to where Nyland and I are, he like stoops down, runs his hand down Nyland's back, and then darts off. Like, he runs. This kid takes off down the hallway, never looks back. I was shocked, but it was so freaking funny. I mean, I can't really blame him. Like, I don't want to pet the cute dog too, but it was just so funny. I thought it was hilarious more than anything. I wasn't mad. I was just, it was so funny. But everyone wanted to pet him, so as a special treat for the people in my classes, especially my professors, or not professors, they were just called teachers, but my teachers who were so patient. My college algebra teacher specifically had been dying. He absolutely adored Nyland, but was always so good. Never did anything he wasn't supposed to do. So on the last day of school, as a treat, I took off Nyland's vest, so I took him like out of working mode and just let him roam around the classroom. And he went up to my teacher, and my teacher got down on his knees and like gave Nyland a hug and a bunch of kisses, and he was just so happy. That warmed my heart. Oh my gosh, made me so happy. Nyland was such a good boy, but he always looked sad for some reason. He still has that problem. I'm still in contact with the person that he ended up with, which is I love. And actually, he ended up doing a different job. He's not a seeing eye dog, but I won't say what his job is for the sake of anonymity, protecting the person that has him now, just, you know, just in case you ever found her or anything. I wouldn't want to drop any hints as to what her disability is, because that's not mine to say. But he has a different job now. So, but originally he was supposed to be a seeing eye dog. But basically, the reason he got dropped from the seeing eye dog program is because he kept having health issues. He kept having growing pains that were stalling his learning too much. And his trainer kept having health issues too. So, like, it was just a bad combination of things going wrong. But because his training had to keep getting pushed back and back and back, eventually they just moved him to a different program that had the time to allow him to heal and finish growing. So it wasn't his fault in any way. He was such a good dog. He was so freaking good. And I am so proud of him, and I'm so happy with where he ended up. He is helping his new person so much. But another sign that the school absolutely adored him is they put him in the school yearbook. He got to have his own picture right next to me. Oh, and he got his own student ID card. So funny, so cute. Also, quick tangent about those student ID cards. They didn't start doing that until my senior year, and we had to always wear them. So that, you know, American school, they're just doing that kind of stuff now for reasons. So So the cards though, somebody at some point figured out that if you bend the card, it smells like a skunk. Or, the leafy plant that smells like a skunk was what people usually said it smelled like. But it did. Like, for some reason, the card smelled like a skunk. I don't know if it was the ink or whatever, but like, specifically when you bent the card, I guess because it like makes it warm where you bend it, it smelled like a skunk. It was so odd. But anyway, it's a little tangent. But Nyland became a bit of a quasi celebrity. So the the city newspaper came to our school and did a story on him. It's funny, they took a bunch of pictures for the newspaper article, especially there were more pictures in the digital version of the newspaper than the physical version. But not a single one of those, it was like between 5 and 10 pictures. I don't remember exactly how many, but not a single one of those pictures had my face in it. Oh, actually, except for the one I think where they took a picture of the yearbook, but like the actual me that was physically present the day that the newspaper was there, they did not take a picture of my face at all, which I thought was kind of funny. My legs were in it because Nyland was sitting next to my legs, but that's it. They even took a picture of him in the classroom, and the I'm pretty sure there were like other people's faces, not like directly looking at the camera, but like their side profiles and stuff were in view of the camera, but I wasn't. So I just thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, and then after the newspaper, oh, you know what? Actually, the newspaper doing a story on us did cause a bit of an issue. So the plan that I had made with the school was that Nyland was going to walk the stage at our high school graduation. However, once the newspaper published about that, like they published, Nyland's so awesome, he's even gonna walk the stage at graduation, blah blah blah. And our school district saw that. And I had no idea they would do this, but it turns out they had a bit of a problem with that. I don't really understand why. The explanation that they gave was that it would disrupt the integrity of the event, which I don't think so. He was just as much of a student as the rest of us. In fact, he was a student of his own learning program. But I don't know. Everyone was really disappointed because, like, honestly, the entire school wanted Nyland to be able to walk the stage at graduation. But whatever. And it's not even like we shared our graduation ceremony with the other schools. It was just us, and we all, I mean, it's possible there was somebody at school that I didn't, like, never talked to that didn't want it, but it was just a decision that our school school board decided that they did not want to deal with. I still don't understand it. I don't think it would have disrupted the integrity of the event, but I of course am biased, so whatever. It is what it is. He still got to wear a little graduation cap. I think somebody had donated an extra cap and gown, but the gown was too big, or at least an extra cap. So I had sewn an elastic strip to the bottom of the cap so that you could put it around like under his chin and keep it on. He was so cute, and I got some pictures with him in my cap and gown and his cap. But after the newspaper had done a story on him, the local news came and did a story on him too. So that was like super fun, super cool. I do not like the way that I looked in that news story. Like, I don't know. But whatever. That's not the point of it. But I was just so proud and so happy with how all of that turned out. But it was kind of crazy because Nyland he was in the newspaper, in the news, in the school yearbook, blah blah blah. But I said at the beginning that a friend of mine had introduced me to this, and that's because she had also planned and did it too. She got Nyland's sister, and she and I were both doing it for the first time. Yet, for some reason, I was the only one that was featured in the newspaper and on the news, which I felt bad about. I mean, it was super cool, but I did feel bad that, she was the one who found out about this, but I was the one that got all the attention. Or I guess Nyland was the one that got all the attention, but he totally deserved it, so. But the thing about Nyland's sister, who my friend had, is so when it comes to these, at least this organization, names can be kind of difficult because each name can only be used once unless the dog gets career changed or retires. So if Nyland had become a seeing eye dog and stayed with the program, there wouldn't be allowed to be another dog named Nyland until he retired. Since he got career changed, there is already allowed to be another dog named Nyland. I don't know if there is already or not, but there's allowed to be. But the limiting of names and the many puppies that they have each year makes it so that it can be kind of hard to come up with names. And the way that they name the puppies is that each litter gets its own letter. So Nyland was from the litter of N names. And I did get to find out beforehand that I think I found out that I was getting a black lab. And I found out that the litter was an N litter. Like all the names started with the letter N. I didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl, but I did know those two things. So, or I think I knew he was a black lab. I for sure knew he was an N because I was like trying to brainstorm what his name could possibly be, and never would I have guessed Nyland. It turns out Nyland is a city in California, and there was another puppy from a different litter named Oakland, which is also a city in California. So, and that's where the Guide Dogs for the Blind headquarters or main campus is. There's another campus in Oregon, but main campus is in California. So, understandable that they were named after Californian cities. But Nyland's poor sister, they must not have had any good options for N names for female dogs other than ones they had already used. Like, 'cause they had already used ones like Nova and like Nebula, things like that. So Nyland's poor sister ended up getting named Norwina. Yeah, Norwina. Thank goodness that poor dog has no idea how awful of a name that is. My friend made it kind of better by just like calling her Nor for short, but like not that much better. Even just Nora would have been better. But Norwina, you can make a donation of I think $100 to name a puppy. And so part of me wonders if like somebody had done that and really thought that was a good name. Maybe it was somebody's grandma's name, but even as a grandma name, that is just awful. And I'm sorry if your grandma's name is Norwina. but come on. That's not a good name. So poor Norwina got kind of the worst a bad draw with names. I really guess that there just must not have been any better options, or somebody donated to name the dog and they had to do it. So who knows, but poor Norwina. But it was so cool because since we lived in Texas, and Texas does the very southern thing of, or maybe it's specifically a Texan thing. I don't remember. Whenever homecoming comes around, we make mums and garters. Well, mums are for the girls, garters are for the guys. And mum is a type of flower, which is where the name comes from. In case you don't know what a mum is, like a homecoming mum. Mum is a type of flower. But the homecoming mum is something that, so when you have a homecoming date, the male, like, or the guy, makes a mum for the girl, which is like, it's kind of hard to explain. It'd be better if I had a picture, but it's basically something that you like attach to your chest or wear around your neck or whatever that has the little mum flowers on it, but also has a bunch of things dangling down that reflect your interests or like reflect your school. And so, in the really fancy ones, especially if you're a senior, the higher a grade you are, the bigger they get. So seniors get really big ones that like touch the floor and stuff. So mine, my senior year, because I went to my boyfriend's house and made his garter while he made my mum, with his mom's help, of course. And it had like lights on it and little bells and little stuffed. Our high school mascot was a bobcat, so little like bobcat stuffed animal on it. I think it also had a black lab stuffed animal, if I remember right, like to represent Nyland. So also, side note, now that I'm thinking about that boyfriend from high school, he didn't want me to raise a dog with guide dogs for the blind because he was worried it would take too much of my attention off of him. Yeah, I'm glad that relationship ended. I'm sure he's a better person now, but that was certainly like, I am so glad that I ignored that request from him, because I never would have gotten that amazing once in a lifetime experience. Or not necessarily once in a lifetime, because I could do it again. Although I don't think there are any puppy raising groups in my area. I could start one. It's something I've like thought about, but I just don't have the time or energy to do it right now. Plus, honestly, it is really hard having to give the dog up after over a year of having it in your life. So that's something you also got to think about if you're considering this. But if you are considering this, I highly recommend at least doing it once. It's such an amazing experience. And as a high schooler who got to bring a dog to school, like, it was just so cool. I really loved it. But anyway, yeah, so the ex, thank God I didn't listen to him, because the experience I got from getting to raise a guide dog was so incredible. And now he's with someone, like helping them be able to actually function and live again. And that is incredible. She probably wouldn't have ended up, I don't know. Like, obviously he would still exist. He would have gone to someone, but who knows? And she wouldn't be in my life because I wouldn't. But yeah, anyway, back to the mums. So I also made Nyland a little garter to wear, and it was so cute. And also, during football season, to get like school spirit up, every Friday was a spirit day. So they would have a theme. There was like, our colors were maroon and white, so like maroon out was a day where you just basically like wear maroon. There was twin day, and so on Nyland I dressed him up for all the days. Twin day, I twinned with him, so I like wore a shirt that matched his vest, and I put my hair in pigtails to try to match his floppy ears, and I like drew a little dog nose on my nose. And there was Hawaii day, so I dressed him up like a little, give him a lei and a little, I don't remember if I gave him a Hawaiian shirt or anything. For Maroon Out Day, I gave him a maroon shirt. But what else was there? I dressed him up for Christmas, of course. I don't think I dressed him up for Halloween, oddly enough. But for Christmas, I had, what did I have? I think it was a sweater. I for sure had reindeer antlers that I put on him. And poor Nyland was so not pleased with the antlers. But he was such a patient, good boy. He dealt with them anyway. But there were also other things, like for his birthday in April, the counselors got him birthday presents. And so I have videos of him he would stick his face in the presents and carry the bag around until the actual present fell out, but he would just carry the bag around and like pull the tissue paper out of the bag and just like trot around with like it was his prize. And we were like, Nyland, look, the gift is right here, like the toy, the tree, whatever, it's right here. And he was so happy with his little bag. I love that dog. He such a funny boy. And in the program that he ended up in, they had videos of him playing with the other dogs, and you know, there's a couple of black labs like in the video, but you could tell which one was him even from far away because he was the only one bouncing around, throwing his legs around, like just being a goofy kid. As sad as he looked when he was working, he was the funniest dog, the goofiest thing. Man, I miss having him in my life. Unfortunately, our other dogs did not like him. I don't know, maybe because he probably was just too rambunctious for them, because they were kind of older, and he was a puppy, and so they probably just didn't want to deal with him. But unfortunately, they never really grew to get used to him. They were just sick of him all the time. Poor Nyland. But or maybe they were jealous that he got to go out all the time and they didn't. I don't know. I do feel bad about that if that was the problem. But, you know, it is what it is. Gotta do what you gotta do. So, and then every month we had 2 get-togethers with the guide dog group. So the first get-together was a monthly meeting where basically we just go over training, like practice specific training things, you know, like practice having them walk next to you, like healing and things like that, just whatever they wanted to focus on that week. And then the second outing, which was the outings or the get-togethers were every other week, so like which is why it was twice a month. So like on week 1, for example, it was the meeting, and then like on week 3 of the month, it was the outing. And the outings, there were like, we could go anywhere. I mean, I'm pretty sure we had to get permission from the places that we wanted to go first, but I don't remember all of our outings. I remember one that I didn't go to was a baseball game, and the meetings and outings were required, but I don't know, I had something going on where I like couldn't make it to the outing. Maybe it was on a day that we had a band competition or something, I'm not sure. But there was that, and then another week the outing that we had was going on a local like morning TV show, which we were just like basically the audience that they tell you what to do. Like they tell you clap, laugh, blah blah blah. And so we were that audience. Another time we went to the airport and just basically like practiced, like did training sessions in the airport. What else? I'm struggling to remember. Oh, around Christmas time, we did White Elephant. Or was it White Elephant? Yeah, it was White Elephant. And I ended up, honestly, with not a bad gift. The thing that I ended up with was a $10 PetSmart gift card, which, with all the pets I have, I mean, it was pretty fitting. Man, the more I talk about this, the more I'm like, do I want to maybe actually start a puppy raising group in my city? I don't know. It would be cool. But I don't know. I just don't think I have the time right now. Although I do have the kind of job where I could totally, like, bringing a dog to work would not be a problem. I mean, I work in an office, so, and the people there are very understanding. So I do not think that it would be a problem at all. But I like leading things. Like, when I was in college, I started a pet club. I actually only very recently remember this because it didn't last very long. We would get together and I had so many field trips planned that we never got to because by the time I finally got the club approved, because you had to do all these things, like fill out all these forms, go to meetings, specifically for club organizers. And so, like, by the time I finally got the club up and going, I ended up dropping out of college very shortly after. And then I couldn't be the leader of the club anymore. But they had this, I don't know, their policies around it were really weird. Because they told me, if you're not in college, you can't be the leader. So I said, okay, well then, so what happens then? And they said, well, you're going to have to pass on the leadership to somebody else. And I said, well, what happens if I don't? Like, there wasn't like anybody, I don't know, the club had like barely gotten established. I was like, I don't really see the point. Like, I would rather just, let it die. It's not like we really got anything going. We just kind of hung out a couple times. And they were like, well, you have to. And I was like, but what if I don't? And they were like, you have to. I was like, I'm not even a student. Like, what can you even do? So basically, I just didn't do anything. Never passed on the leadership or anything. And I mean, I was right. There was nothing they could do. So they just let it die. We all just let it die. But there was a point where, like, the only significant thing that happened in that club was I have some family friends who had their hamsters had bred. So I had a bunch of baby hamsters because they had asked me if I wanted one. I was like, well, no, but if you want, I can take half of them and try to get them adopted out for you. And they were like, okay, that would be awesome. So I ended up I was only able to find one person who was willing to adopt one. But that's one hamster that got a home for however long hamsters live. I've heard that hamsters tend to die in horrible ways. Like, they don't have natural deaths. They have like burned in a fire sort of deaths, which is insane, but the warrior death, I guess. But that was like the only significant thing that happened in that club. But man, it would be so cool to because I want to do these things. Like, I I'm an idea person, I guess. Like, I can constantly generate ideas. Like, I'm thinking about if I did start a Guide Dogs for the Blind puppy raising club in my city, then think about all these things we could go do. We could go to the like baseball game for the local team that everyone loves. We could go to this airport. I'm just picking up on ideas from the same group that I did last time, but like we could go to, well, shoot, maybe I don't actually have that many ideas. Oh, there's tons of like farmers markets and craft fairs and stuff around here. We could go to those and there'd be a lot of people they'd have to get used to. I don't know. But I know because I've been through things like this before, if I went through this with the pet club. If I was to start the club, I would lose interest. I wouldn't want to run it anymore. Like, my initial like push to have, like, once the initial excitement died down, I would completely stop wanting anything to do with it, and I would just be like, all right, I'm over it. So I already know that would happen if I was to start a club. Oh, we could go to the mall and like, but anyway. So that's why I'm not gonna do it as much as, like, I'm probably gonna start, like, I'm gonna be laying in bed tonight. I'm gonna be like, oh, we could go to this place. I never thought about this. Blah, blah, blah. So, we even went to a car dealership, the Subaru dealership with my old puppy club because Subaru for winter has this thing called the Share the Love event where if you buy a Subaru, then you can choose to donate $250, or well, like they donate $250 of the sale to whatever charity you choose. And so we were one of the charities that people could choose from. So we went there like for one of our outings, and we had a puppy in our group whose name was Love. And so she was obviously the poster child for our portion of that event. And plus, she was a yellow lab, and yellow labs, as adorable as black labs are, yellow labs are a lot easier to get pictures of because their facial features do not blend in with their face. So she was just a better candidate overall, honestly, for the event. But, you know, whatever. But yeah, there were so many places that I took Nyland other than school and other than the outings. Like, took him to the movie theater. Oh, one thing that kept happening was at school, both at school and whenever I was flying him, like, to take him to Oregon for his formal training, people at school and the flight attendant on that plane thought that he was a jacket laying on the floor. Or, well, people at school kept thinking he was a jacket. Like, they would accidentally step on his tail or whatever, and he would, like, pop up and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I thought that was somebody's jacket. And the flight attendant on the plane, she was walking up, and then she looks at my mom and me, and she's like, ladies, please put your bag under the seat. And we're like, that's not a bag, that's a dog. And she looked down, and she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even notice, he's so well behaved. Which, very proud moment. But it was so funny. We didn't have to stuff him under the seat. But it was just so funny because she was like, these people in our bag, man, they never listen. And we're like, that's a dog. That was such a funny moment. But that trip was so fun because my mom and I were like, if we're gonna go, we're gonna make a trip out of this. So we the school was located in Boring, Oregon, like literally the city that's named Boring. Or at least we had to drive through Boring. I don't remember, but it wasn't a part of Oregon that was, in fact, quite boring. So, what we did was we stayed in Seattle and we did a bunch of things in Seattle, like walked around, we went up the Space Needle, we walked around the boardwalk, all sorts of things, checked out the stores. Oh, we took a ferry up to Canada, that was cool, and explored a little bit of, what was it, Vancouver? I might be making that up, that might have been a different city. Or is Vancouver a province? Shoot, I'm not good at geography, I'm so sorry. But it was such a fun trip, and obviously having to leave an island behind was very sad. My mom and I both cried. We were both very emotional people, very emotional people. But whenever we were in Oregon, it was once a year, each state that has like guide dog groups has a fun day, like a convention day basically, and people in the state like travel to go to the guide dog convention for their state. So this was Oregon Fun Day. We just so happened to be there in time for Oregon Fun Day. So that was pretty freaking awesome. We got to see like the activities that they had. They had a kiss your pup booth, which was cute. I remember the Texas ones had an obstacle course. Oh, another thing to know about Nyland is he hates water. He hates stepping in puddles. He hates it. Like, if he had been a guide dog for the blind, he probably would have led his person into a puddle because he would have been walking around it, but would have walked his person right into it. But he just, man, he hated touching water. So the obstacle course was it was like you had to walk over things, you had to walk around things, but then at the end there was a little kiddie pool with a very, very shallow amount of water in there. But Nyland would not touch it. We went through the rest of the obstacle course just fine. He was so good. And he was so good about loose leash walking where you could just like barely touch the leash. Honestly, you probably could have dropped it and he would have stayed with you. But my current dog, unfortunately, is not good at that. And I know, like, if I had been more on top of her training, I could have fixed that, but I don't know, it's just really tough because she just gets so distracted by everything outside. Like inside, I can get her to heal just fine using treats to encourage her, but outside, she does not care about treats at all. All she wants is to go chase down the burger that she just saw or like sniff this dog, the spot that this dog has marked or whatever. So that's frustrating, but Nyland was so good about it. So we went through this whole obstacle course. He did everything right, but he would not touch the pool. Oh, and I remember one time whenever my best friend and I were giving him a bath outside, he was so miserable. Most dogs don't seem to like baths, even if they like swimming. My current dog, she's a lab mix. Best we can guess is like a lab German Shepherd mix, but definitely lab. And she loves the water. She absolutely loves the water. However, she hates baths so much. Like, she's good. She'll mostly stay in there, but she will, like, if you're not like really paying attention, she'll kind of slowly lift her foot out and like slowly lift the next one. And if you're still not stopping her, then she hops out. But otherwise, she's really good. But yeah, Nyland hated it so much. But yeah, fun day. Fun day is also where I learned that dogs don't see in black and white. They see mostly blue and like a dull version of blue and yellow and not red. It's interesting that they don't see red, but I guess it's like related also to the fact that potentially related. I mean, it's the fact that they don't have like the what is it, the cones in their eyes that can detect red as a color, but like I kind of wonder if it's like related to the fact that if you go deep down into the ocean, like red is the first color to disappear off of what you can see, which is also why if you bleed underwater and you're deep enough, supposedly your blood looks green. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I still have my t-shirts from not only from Texas Fun Day for guide dogs, but also just like I have all my guide dogs t-shirts. Oh, and one time we went to the NASA Space Museum. That was super cool. I have my shirt from that too. And basically, so my work uniform is just like I can wear whatever. I can basically wear whatever I want as long as it's like business casual ish, like modest appropriate. But even like business casual is pretty loose. Like I wear jeans and a t-shirt. On Monday through Wednesday, I wear blue jeans, and then Thursday, Friday, I wear black jeans. The reason that I wear blue jeans, I prefer my black jeans, but sorry, this is like off topic, but the reason that I wear blue jeans more is because I have two pairs of blue jeans, but I only have one pair of black jeans, so, it is what it is. Well, actually, I have two pairs of black jeans, but I don't like the other one as much because the pockets are a lot shallower, and I can't put my keys and or AirPods case into there without them falling out if I am like taking my pants off. So sorry, that's not necessary information, but anyway, back to the point. So my work uniform is jeans and then just whatever t-shirt I want. And I have a couple of t-shirts that are like branded like with my work logo and stuff. But most of the t-shirts I wear, because most of the t-shirts I have that aren't like nerd anime t-shirts. I mean, I don't really have a lot of anime t-shirts, but I don't like wearing t-shirts, sorry, off topic again, but I don't like wearing shirts that are like pictures of anime faces. Except for this one crop top that I have that has the Hunter x Hunter characters on it, but it's like a cute crop top tank top, so I think that helps make up for the fact that otherwise it seems like a very weeb kind of t-shirt. But I like nerd shirts that are more subtle. Like a Hunter x Hunter shirt that I have says like whatever, like what is the Hunter exam number? It's like 181st. I know it's not 181st. Or like 700. Shoot, I don't know. 783rd Hunter exam or whatever. So like you only really know what that is if you've seen the show or like know of the show. So but anyway, so most of like the t-shirts that I have that aren't nerdy are guide dog shirts. So that's all I wear to work is guide dog shirts and then the shirt that has my company logo on it. That's it. Well, actually, I do have this other shirt that's, well, it is a nerdy shirt. It says Star Labs, which, again, you only know what that is if you know of like the DC universe, like the shows or anything, or the comics or whatever. So, and I have that because my dad and I were avid watchers of The Flash whenever it first came out. The first couple seasons were great, but it went downhill. It got pretty boring. It just felt really repetitive, so we stopped watching it. But yeah, so my Star Lab shirt, my guide dog shirts, and then my company shirt. Those are the shirts that I wear to work. I can't believe how many guide dog shirts I still have. But I've got one that on the back it says, "Our pups weren't born in Texas, but they got here as fast as they could." I've got one shirt from the NASA trip that's got like astronaut dogs on the back. Pretty cute, honestly. Let's see. I've got another one that has just a picture of a puppy like on the front with his little guide dog's vest on it. I've got one from Texas Fun Day. Let's see. I'm pretty sure there's another one I'm forgetting, but whatever. Point is, I have a lot of guide dog shirts left, and that's basically just what I wear to work every single day. Also, recently, so they give you little trade. I don't know if they still do, but at least at that time, they give you like little trading cards for your dog. They take a picture of them when they're a puppy in their little vest, and then they put them on a card and put their information, so like their name, who their parents are, maybe some like extra information, but I don't remember. But recently I found my nylon cards and that brought me back. I really enjoyed like handing those out to people. It's supposed to be like a business card basically, or like a little advertisement for guide dogs, but I like them as trading cards because each dog gets their own. So that was really cool. But yeah, it was so fun taking him to school, movie theaters, restaurants, on planes, to I think one of the outings was the zoo, but I don't know if I went to that one either because I don't remember actually being there. I don't know. Getting to be on the set of a live recorded TV show was cool. I think that like what they were talking about while we were there was like it was some kind of like health product that probably didn't actually work. You know how those things are. But just such an incredible experience that I am so happy to have had once in my life. I probably won't do it again simply because I just for one thing, again, it's sad having to give the dog back, but I just don't really have the time or energy for it these days. And, you know, it was really cool being able to take him to school, but like, it's, what I would do though is I would love to be able to take my animals places to schools or shelters or things like that, and just let people get to like hold them, touch them, experience them, because I really loved all the times that I was able to interact with exotic animals as a kid, like whenever they would take them to school and let us touch them, hold them, or like the moment that I fell in love with snakes was whenever I went to a Halloween event where at a church, no less, where they had a corner that was just a snake corner where you could just hold snakes. Like all the kids could just go hold snakes. And that's where I fell in love with snakes. And I, my, someone ended up, I think my mom ended up sending me the picture like somewhat recently in my life. Well, a couple years ago. And that's how I found out that that snake that I, didn't remember. I just remembered it was a snake. But now I know that was a corn snake since I was able to see the picture again. But that's where I fell in love with snakes. And so moments like that are so special to me. And like whenever I would take my bearded dragon to college with me into classes or just like carry him around campus or whatever, people would think he was so cool. And so I want to be able to give people those experiences. I don't know. I almost did. Like there was one time that I was talking to a shelter, a homeless shelter, about doing that, but I just never did. I don't know. I just am really bad about I have ideas that I think would be awesome and then I don't follow through. It's it's a bad habit of mine. I just lose interest in things. And I know that's like an ADHD thing, but I also know that I should be um work on being better about that. But I really do. I really like being able to introduce people to my animals because how often do you actually get to like interact with and hold a snake or a ferret or a lizard? I mean, maybe you do, but I found that a lot of people just don't. I mean, even me, like a lot of those experiences were only once in my life. So if I hadn't had that one thing happen, that I hadn't dated the guy who had a bearded dragon, or if I hadn't gone to that Halloween event or whatever, then I wouldn't have gotten those experiences at all and wouldn't have gotten a chance to fall in love with those animals. So, I don't know. At the very least, maybe I'll start like carrying my ferret around town or something. I don't know. The ferrets don't really like to go out. They get very like quickly overheated and stressed out, so I don't know. But there are people who take their ferrets to like Petco and stuff like that and their ferret has a grand old time, so I don't know. But my ferret, the one time I tried to like walk her outside, she was not having it. She was, also, female ferrets are so tiny, and the problem is their heads are the same size as their necks. So you can't really keep them in a harness because they can just like pull themselves right out of it. Definitely not a collar, but like even a harness, they just like, and their arms are so teeny tiny. They just like pull their heads and arms through, and so you just can't really like walk them safely because they'll pull themselves out in an instant. So, but I would like to try to find more ways that I can let people experience how awesome exotic animals are because I really do think that they're awesome. But yeah, so I think that if it even remotely interests you to raise a service dog puppy and like look into having an experience like that, you should totally, whether or not you decide to do it, it's totally worth a look. Doing some research, trying to figure it out. Again, the company that I did it through was Guide Dogs for the Blind. You do have to be able to afford to cover the dogs. They'll reimburse vet bills, but they don't like give you a credit card to pay for anything, so you know you have to be able to cover the initial cost and they'll reimburse. But some things that they don't reimburse are like food, toys, the cage, or like, you know, the kennel, things like that. So you will have to be able to cover those costs. But if you're comfortable with that and you think that it's an interesting sounding opportunity, or if you're a parent and you think that that might be something that your kid would enjoy or like teach them some good skills, then I'd say it's totally, I think it was a really cool experience to be able to have at least once in your life. Highly recommend it. Would I do it again? Probably not. Once again, just because I don't really have the time or energy for it anymore. And I do have a physical disability that makes having to keep up with things like that a bit more difficult. Not impossible. Thanks to my medicine is like the only reason that it's not impossible, because without my medicine, it gives me the ability to function like a normal person. I would barely be able to like live a life without it. So thank God for that. But you know, still keeping up with stuff like that, especially like on outings where you're potentially, you know, walking all over the airport or whatever, it can be a lot. But not for a normal person, just for like a me kind of person. But yeah, I think that if it even remotely sounds interesting to you, it was super, super cool. And I definitely recommend it. I think that Guide Dogs for the Blind is a great company. And another really cool thing about when we would have like big meetings like the conventions or just like outings that included multiple groups of like multiple puppy raising groups, one really cool thing about it is we got to meet people who were visually impaired and had actively working service dogs. So it was so awesome being able to see these dogs in action, like see what our dogs were going to grow up to do for people. And it's amazing how much these dogs can change people's lives and like give them their freedom and independence back. Also, an interesting thing about guide dogs is they're only allowed to work for so many years. Like, I think like 7 is the average, like 5 to 7 is the average. It's really pretty short. And then generally, what they'll do is, like, unfortunately, take the dog from the person, not in like a mean way, but in like a, you can only really focus, you can only have like one at a time. There's a lot of, for some reason, the in Texas specifically, like the organization that manages service animals, like service animal organizations in Texas, I think it's Assistance Dogs International. They say that if you're going to have a service dog, at least from an organization, you are not allowed to have other pets in the house or other dogs in the house. I mean, because I think it's like that they're worried that they would distract the service dog too much, which I don't know. I don't think that that's necessarily true. I can see where they're coming from, but I don't know. It's a really frustrating rule because I had looked into getting a service dog to help me with my disability, but there's no way I'm giving up my dog. So, that didn't work out. And I was going to train my dog to be my service dog, but I just didn't end up keeping up with it. But again, the medicine gave me my freedom. So, or not my freedom. Well, yeah, my freedom, but like gave me my life back. So I didn't need the mobility assistance dog so much anymore. It'd still be nice to have occasionally, but like I am, I really don't need it unless my body starts getting used to this dose of the medicine, like it did with the initial dose that I had. So I don't know. We'll see. Things could get worse, but for now we're good. So where was I going with that? Sorry. But oh yeah, so I think like that's why they take the dog from the people because for some reason the regulation says that you can't have another dog in the house. So whenever a guide dog retires, they take it and they find a new home for it. I think that like from the pattern that I noticed, it seems like they first offer it to whoever the puppy raiser was. If they can't take it or don't want to take it, then they'll like you can sign up to get a career changed or retired service dog, but you have to pay like it was like $500, maybe even more now, inflation, but quite a few $100s to be able to adopt one of those dogs. But I mean, it makes sense. They've had tons of like very structured training, so it's not like you're just getting any random dog. And they're bred by specifically selected breeders. So, and it's a volunteer organization, so you're basically donating to the organization by paying to adopt one of their dogs. But yeah, so they take the dog from the disabled person, and find a new home for it, which that sucks because even more than like being a puppy raiser and losing the dog hurts, that's only a year and a couple of months. These people have had the dog for, like, if you get the dog when he's already well, let's say like after he's had maybe another year of training, you get the dog when he's like 2 years old. And then if he is in service for 5 years for you, he's retiring when he's like 7 or like 7 to 9. You've had this dog for 5 to 7 years. that's a really long time to get deeply attached. I mean, dogs are family members. Like, they are deeply emotional. They connect with you, and it probably hurts them too to get taken and put in a different home. I mean, they understand, like, or well, not they can like fully understand what's going on, but like they adapt. But it's it's not gotta be fun on any party. Um, quick side story though. Whenever I was in that puppy group, the leader of our puppy group, she got her old dog back. Oh, you know what's weird though is that if you're raising one of the puppies, you are allowed to have other dogs in the home. It's just if you have like a service dog that you can't. So it's kind of interesting. But I guess maybe because they're not actively doing their job, but they are learning to do their job. Like, they're learning to be in work mode when they have their vest on and stuff. So I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of a weird rule. But so the person who was the leader of our local puppy raising group had gotten one of her dogs back that she had raised as a puppy because he was a seeing eye dog, and he walked his owner, not to freak you out or anything, but he walked his owner into an open manhole. Like, the cover was off, and the person, like the visually impaired person, fell right into the manhole. I think they like were able to catch themselves, but like that is scary. So he got instantly retired after that. But also, he definitely had like some behavioral issues because Nyland ended up getting a scar on his tongue from that dog because he was like staying with it. We did puppy trades every once in a while where they didn't want any dog to get like too used to any one house. So we would do puppy trades where for a couple weeks your dog would go stay with somebody else and you would take their dog. And so at one point, Nyland was staying with that person, and her dog Spike, who was the one that led his person into a manhole, bit Nyland's tongue. Like, I guess Nyland was like panting. He was like jumping around trying to play with Spike, and Spike didn't want to play. So he like bit at Nyland, but caught his tongue, and so ended up giving his tongue a permanent scar. So that's an interesting, I want to know how I got these scars kind of story. A grumpy old grandpa dog bit me on the tongue. But Nyland could definitely be a handful for grumpy old dogs, as we found out with our dogs. But is such a good boy, and he's doing such good work now with his new job. I'm so proud of him. He's really incredible. But yeah, that's my story about Nyland. That's the story about the dog that I raised when I was in high school and got to take to my classes and stuff, and everywhere that I went, he went with me. It was amazing. If you are ever looking into getting a service dog or volunteering to raise a puppy, like, I think Guide Dogs for the Blind is a great company. Otherwise, if you can, look for a company that will do it for free, because otherwise it can cost, you have to fundraise for your dog for one of the companies that you have to pay for. It's like $15,000 to $30,000 for a dog. But I think these companies are doing great work, and I think that if you have the opportunity to volunteer to raise a puppy, it is such a cool experience. I highly recommend it at least once in your life. I think it can teach you a lot, and it's just super cool getting to take your dog to school and work and stuff. So yeah, thank you for listening to me yap. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're asleep, or that I kept you company for a while. Have a wonderful night. Good night.